Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast. BrightWord is a leading platform for diverse storytelling, where voices from all backgrounds can share their unique narratives and connect with readers from around the world. Follow our regular podcast updates, where we strive to foster a literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast, where authors share their stories behind the stories themselves, and we explore the journey that turns ordinary pages into extraordinary inspiration. Today, we're honored to welcome back Dr. Howard E. Rubin for his third and final, maybe, visit with us. I hope it's not the final one, but Howard is a remarkable author of How and Nobody Became Somebody, a book that basically goes through the chronicles of how he rose from being underestimated and unsupported to earning multiple advanced degrees, teaching countless students, and making a lasting mark in the field of environmental health and public science. His story is truly a testament to grit, to resilience, and the power of defying the odds. No matter what, labels, the word tries to stick on you. You keep on doing what you're doing. You keep on fighting. And in this closing of the trilogy, in this closing conversation, we will reflect on how Howard has learned since his last appearance, the impact of his story, and maybe some about his readers, his students alike, and the legacy he hopes to leave behind. If you ever doubted your potential, this is an episode you won't want to miss. So that being said, Mr. Howard, Dr. Howard, hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure to have you. How's the family?
The family, they're wonderful. Of all the successes I've ever had, I feel like they are my best one, the most important one.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's sweet. That's beautiful. Now, Dr. Rubin, I want to welcome you back again to for your third visit. Looking back over this whole journey from writing the book to connecting with readers, what has it been like? How do you feel?
I've been very encouraged. I've gotten feedback from several readers,
Mm-hmm.
and they thanked me for writing the book. And that amazed me because you know that people aren't going to contact you unless they're really enthused about it. And they told me that they were sitting on the line. They knew that they had to go forward in their life. They wanted to go forward in their life,
Mm-hmm.
but they were so full of self-doubt that they just didn't do anything. They were just sitting on the sidelines, and that the book gave them the inspiration and the pathway in order to go forward and to achieve their ultimate goals.
Right. And have you learned any kind of unexpected lesson from this journey that you've been going through?
The most unexpected thing
Mm-hmm.
that came out of this is that when I wrote the book, I assumed that it would be for a young population, people just starting out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But to my amazement, almost everybody that's contacted me was middle-aged, that they had gone to a certain point in their lives and they were stuck there,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't know how to go forward after that.
Yeah.
And so I was just amazed what a pent-up demand there was for people who are further on in their careers
Mm-hmm.
on how to take the next step.
Right. And this is all you showing them through your own story how to maybe direct their lives. Now, has any of the feedback changed how you see your own story?
Well, actually, that's a good question. I wrote the book for three reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The first reason was because I wanted it to be a keepsake for my children and my grandchildren, because I really had really very little knowledge about my past
Mm-hmm.
and what I had to go through to be where I am. Of course, they saw where I am in my life, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about the journey. The second part was that I wanted the book to be inspirational. I wanted it to be inspirational for my children, for my grandchildren, so that they would take this and be able to apply it for themselves to go forward,
Mm-hmm.
as well as for the readers. The third reason I wrote the book is that I realized that just being inspired to move forward is only half the problem. The other half has to be knowing how to go forward. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to go forward, and the book gives you a path forward so that you can achieve your dreams.
Right, right. And you achieved so much despite the early setbacks. I mean, you were just talking a little bit about your past. I want to dig a little bit deeper in that. Are there any moments now when you look back and think, oh, I wish I had celebrated that more in the moment?
Well, because I was always expecting to fail, after all,
Hmm.
that's how I was programmed. I put the focus on my goals, not on the journey.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I tried to rush it as fast as I could because I wanted to get it over with. It wasn't comfortable
Mm.
to go each step of the way because I was expecting to fail each step. But now I see, especially later on in my academic journey, especially when I was accepted into doctoral candidacy, and I
Mm.
knew that eventually I would get my PhD, that
Right.
I should have just relaxed and enjoyed the journey,
Mm.
not just trying to achieve the goals. I feel like now I see that I missed a lot by not enjoying the journey,
Right.
not seeing what the journey was all about.
Hmm. Hmm. And you mentioned your academic path there. I find that very intriguing. What would you say was the toughest moment of maybe self-doubt in your academic path?
Oh, yeah. It really was self-doubt. Uh, when I was working on my first master's in medical microbiology,
Hmm.
I took a course in biochemistry, and I love the field. In fact, that was
Right.
my mind. And I studied, and I felt like I really knew the material.
Hmm.
But every time I took an exam, I got a D on it. And
Mm.
in graduate school, if you get a D, you have to make an A on another course to maintain a B average. If you don't,
Yeah.
then you are kicked out.
Mm.
And I didn't want that to happen. And so I went to the professor for guidance, and I told him, I feel like I know the material, but I'm not performing on the exams. What is wrong? And he just laughed at me, leaned back in his chair, lit his pipe, looked at me and said, "Well, Mr. Rubin, don't you think you should reconsider being in graduate school?"
Mm.
That was devastating.
Yeah.
And so I decided I had to give it my best shot. I mean, after all, that's what I always did. And
Mm.
so I went back to my room. I, I made a study guide to make sure that I truly knew the information as best as I possibly could.
Mm. Mm.
And I went through it and I made sure that I knew everything that I should, and in the proper depth and breadth. After all, it was my interest, and I really wanted to do well in it as well as to succeed.
Right.
However, it occurred to me that maybe it wasn't my knowledge that was the problem; it was my test taking ability.
Hmm.
And so what I did was that I went to the library and I read a section of a book on how to take tests. In this case, they were short answer questions.
Hmm.
And what the advice was that you take the question and make it into a statement. And then you have 3 points supporting what you said,
Hmm.
what your initial statement was. Then you have a concluding statement that ties everything together. So that's what I did on the final exam. Now, the one encouraging thing the professor said, which really wasn't encouraging, is he said the only way I could make a B in the course is if I got the highest grade on the final exam, which is pretty daunting.
Yeah.
So what I did, I ended up with the second highest grade. The highest grade was a 98. I made a 97. The next highest grade after me was an 82. So uh, I looked at it and I saw that my average, because there was a lot of weight given to the final exam,
Hmm.
came out exactly to an 80 point something something average. I made it. I got the B in the course.
Congratulations.
And I'm sure that kind of frustrated the professor.
Of course it did. You ruined his pipe smoking, oh, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't quite as smug after that.
Hmm. Well, I must say, academically speaking, we do kind of come from a similar background because my specialty was microbial biotechnology, and I had to go through,
Oh,
yeah, biochemistry, and I wasn't very good in biophysics because it had a lot of math, and I was never good at math, and genetics because it had so much information that you had to have on hand at all times that I couldn't really keep up with it.
yes.
But eventually, doing my best here, getting an A here to cover up for the D there and everything, to eventually get my master's and graduate. But it was, it was very tiresome. It was, the pain of a biologist is only known to biologists. That's all I say.
For sure.
Sure. Now, if you could go back and stand in the shoes of that young man who was told he didn't have maybe enough intelligence, enough IQ, enough uh, merit to be in graduate school, in college, what would you say to that person?
I would tell the person or my younger self,
Hmm.
stop listening to people. Well, they might be right, they might not be right. How do you know?
Hmm.
Why bother spending time or emotional energy in listening to them? And so the other thing I would tell myself is that if I want to achieve a goal hard enough
Hmm.
and I'm willing to put forth the effort in order to achieve the goal, ultimately, it is up to me. It isn't up to what other people say.
Hmm.
The emphasis is on what I think. And so I always followed there's 10 two-letter words that are very powerful. And that is, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Hmm. Beautiful.
And so I found that to be very motivational.
Hmm. 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 And speaking of motivation, uh, motivation is sort of what gets you going at first. It's what gets your first foot through the door, as they say. But to keep on going, then you're going from motivation to drive, because that what keeps you going. So motivation helps you start, drive keeps you going. Now, we know what your motivation kind of is and how it functions. But how do you maintain the drive, especially today? Do you still have the same strategies as before? Have they evolved? Have they changed? What do you think?
Well, today I can be more relaxed
Hmm.
about things. And so that makes it much nicer.
I'm sure it does.
But what happens is that I realize that today
Hmm.
I still have to set goals. I mean, what a little person I would be if I just sat on my laurels and
Mm.
never made new goals for myself. I would be very shallow. I would not have any vitality in my life. And so I realize that you have to keep going forward, that in your life, you have to continuously set new goals for yourself. You don't
Mm.
feel good that you accomplished the last set of goals. Set new set of goals. It makes life interesting. It keeps you vital. It keeps your mind sharp. I've seen a lot of retired people that have lost this vitality for life. Like my father-in-law, he worked until his late 80s, a very vital person. And when he finally stopped working, overnight, he became an old man
Mm.
because he lost the vitality for life.
Right, right. And you said you said something that you're very relaxed about the whole thing now. You're very loosey-goosey, as they say. Now, I see that to keep that going and to always be relaxed about things, it takes a certain level of discipline. But
Mhm.
discipline is only tested when it is tested. So, what does a bad day look for you now, and how do you get back on track? Do you keep that same discipline about being relaxed about it, and how do you do so?
Okay. For me, a bad day would be a day where I don't have any goals. I try to set little goals for myself every
Mm.
day. The things that I need to do, things I would like to do. So I try to accomplish as many of them as I can. And that way I am able to maintain an interest in the
Mm.
things that I'm doing.
Mm.
And so a bad day for me would be if I did not have anything to do. I would just be listless,
Mm.
roaming around, just walking around in the house, trying to figure out what should I do.
Mm.
To me, that's frightening
How is it frightening?
because if I have nothing to do, I have had no goals that have been set. I I have nothing to work toward. I am just treading water, going nowhere.
Mhm, mhm. And do you always have sort of like macro goals and micro goals, or how does it function for you?
Yes, I do. And I try to make the micro goals lead toward the macro goals.
Mm, mm, mm,
And well, goal setting is really what it's all about. We can call it different things. How about a list of things to do? It can be
right.
that can be the goals that you
Mhm,
want to achieve for the day. But again, you can't just be sitting around doing nothing.
mhm,
What kind of a
mhm.
life is that?
Right. I mean, not a life worth living, pretty much, because you have nothing to aspire to, you have nothing to you're working towards, and it's just such a passive life that is pretty much unlived. That's how I view it. But if you would ask someone maybe in a different field, sociology or something, they would give a different answer. But I want to ask you about something that also we do have a commonality in, which is teaching. I am a teacher as well. I teach English, um, uh, and you're a professor. Uh, and I want to see what kind of similarities do we have, and what kind of differences do we have. So my first question about this is, as a professor, how do you bring your own life lessons into the classroom But you do this without overshadowing, the science that you teach.
Well, because I struggled, I had no guidance, I had not a clue on how to proceed. I tried to give structure to my classes. Of course, the emphasis is on the material to be covered. And I make sure I do the best that I can so that the students understand the material, so that they can go home, study, and better understand it.
Mhm.
However, I also try to give guidance to my classes. I tell my students that if they are struggling, there are personal issues that are affecting their ability to do the work, then talk to me and let's figure out a way
Mhm.
around it. The other thing I do is I tell my students before each exam uh, that there are ways that you can do well on the test. I give them study strategies, I
Mhm.
give them test taking strategies, but most important of all, I give them a motivational little talk.
Mhm.
It's just before game time.
Right.
And what I tell them is that if it's all about success. Now, success means achieving your goals. The higher your goal, the greater your success. But there's a price you have to pay to achieve success, and that is sacrifice. And if you're willing to sacrifice now to achieve your goals, you will have a good life for the rest of your life. But if you have a good life now, then you're going to sacrifice for the rest of your life. And it's a choice.
Mhm.
Most students end up working hard and doing well in the course. Of course, there's always a few students that are not really motivated. They
All
are
right.
just floating.
Mhm.
And I know that I'll get them again in about 10, 15 years when they go back to college because they are at the end of their at their upward mobility in their career.
Mhm. 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 And that's the stuff. But I do love that motivational speech before the exam because that's what I do too. And I tell them pretty much, I am your teacher. I've been with you throughout the whole year. I know exactly the level of each and every one of you. I know exactly what every one of you is capable of, and I'm telling you, being the person who wrote this exam, I'm telling you right now, all of you for certain can do very good on this. So you just got to focus, take your time. And, you have the different kinds of students, those who are very confident and they rush to answer, and that's where the mistakes happen. Those who are not confident at all and they don't answer, even though they could have got a point. And, you have to address all of these, sometimes individually, sometimes collectively. Now, what piece of advice would you, or did you already give to a struggling student, just personally? And that same advice you wish that someone else had told you.
Well, what I would tell the struggling student is that struggling does not mean failing.
Mm-hmm.
Struggling means that there is a barrier to your path, and you have to figure out a way around it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the boulders on the path to success are very large, but that doesn't mean they're insurmountable. You've got to be able to figure out a way under it, around it, over it, through it. It can be done. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, in order to achieve your goal, to get around this barrier, you
Mm-hmm.
have to have a paradigm shift. That is, you have to think out of the box for solutions. But as long as you are fighting and
Mm-hmm.
pushing, you will eventually figure out a way around this problem.
Right, right. And see, you talk a lot about, um, you know, perseverance and keep on pushing, keep on trying, keep on going. And being now an author whose book pretty much centers around this core philosophy of never giving up and keeping on trying, and then doing your work as a professor and also motivating the kids and the students and trying to give them more and more push. This comes with a sense of responsibility that you are the representation of the messages that you're pushing, which is to keep pushing boundaries. Now, that so many people see you as proof that obstacles can be overcame or overcome. How do you feel a sense of responsibility to begin with, that that you are that proof?
I do feel a sense of responsibility, and that's why I wrote the book. I really don't want other people to have to struggle the way I did. At least the book will give them a way to move forward. A book can be an inspiration to them. Like, for example, I've known several people who never went to college because they weren't sure that they could do college level work. And to me, that's appalling.
Right.
Why have self-doubt keep you back? And so I feel like I have a responsibility. And I thought about these people when I first wrote the book, so that they wouldn't have to have this fear of failure holding them back in life.
But do you realize that now, whatever you face, Dr. Howard, whatever you face, even if a dinosaur wrecked your house instead of fighting, you have to keep on going because you are the representation of the message that you have. That's your responsibility now, to always keep on going.
That's right. In
Please.
fact, I follow two rules. And I developed these rules early on. I saw people that would start going a certain direction, like a certain career. Then they say, oh, this career will be better. So they make an about face and start going toward that. Then they will find something else and move toward that. Years later, these people have accomplished nothing because they kept starting and stopping and never moved forward. So what I realized early on is you have to have blinders. Yeah, you might have a better way or another way to accomplish your goals. But if you set carefully a path to success, it will work. And so what you have to do is once you set a path and you start on it, you must follow it and complete it. You do not swerve. You do not get off that path. Right. That is the first thing that I follow. In other words, once you start, you must finish the task. And the second thing, and I try to instill this into my students as well, is that anything that you do, you should do your best. And that is very important. And if I hand in a paper, I hand it in with pride because I know it is the best that I'm able to do.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you said that the people who came to you with feedback and spoke to you about the book, they were middle-aged and upwards. But I want to know, how do you think the book would be read 20 years from now, in the future? What do you think the next generation, or first of all, what do you want the next generation to feel when they close the last page?
Well, I consider the book or the information in the book to be timeless. First of all, the book was two parts. It was my life story was really meant to be inspirational. And uh, activities that occur in the past
Hmm.
have no timeline. So that should be timeless, and it should be inspirational now and in 50 years from now. And the second part is on how to follow a path to achieve your dreams.
Hmm.
That is basic. Uh, there's that also should be timeless, because no matter what happens in the future, whatever new technologies there are,
Right.
still the end result is going to be that you have to take step by step to achieve your goal. So I
Absolutely.
feel like both parts of the book are timeless. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if it's today, tomorrow, or 100 years from now.
I completely agree with you. I mean, the first part, as you said, was this your own story, and we currently read stories from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 50 years ago, stories from the war, stories from the Cold War, the First War, or any revolution. We read all kinds of stories, and we take them as inspirational stories. So, and those pieces are considered timeless because it's a story, and the value of a story is not it's it being topical, but it being inspirational. And that's what we take from a story. And the second part is sort of like your own guide on how to reach the success that you have in mind, which also is a inherent human experience that does not change. I mean, you can go back to pre-language and someone had the dream of eating deer and they had to chase the deer and get down to it and hunt it and everything. And today people want to be a financier or want to be whatever they want to be in the future. Still human experience, still you got to put one leg forward and keep on going. Now I want to go back also to you because I know since we come from a kind of a similar background, I know that your curiosity knows no bounds, especially when you come from the field of science and you deal a lot with certainty and you're watching the cells in this like meticulously put together machine all functioning together, everything. It might pique your interest in other ways. Maybe you deal in philosophy because it's less certain. I want to know, what are you still curious about right now, and maybe even open to learning about?
Yeah, of course, I'm curious about a lot of things,
Hmm.
but my newest set of goals has nothing to do with biology. Well, maybe I can use it for biology, but
Hmm.
as a child, I used to build balsa wood airplanes and fly them. So I was always interested in flying.
Right.
I go to parks and I see people flying drones.
Hmm.
So I decided I want to fly a drone. So of course, I set a goal for myself. You have to set high goals, right? So I
Yes.
decided to become a professional
What's
drone
higher
pilot.
than a drone? I mean,
No, I decided to become a professional drone pilot because there's a lot of technology to it. It isn't
hmm,
just going up and down or around.
absolutely.
So I took and passed the FAA Series 107 test. So I am now officially a professional drone pilot.
I love that.
And so now I'm mastering the technique to properly fly the drone. And
Hmm.
then I will study and master the photography, cinematography, um, and infrared technology, all the different aspects that you can use with a drone to be a
Hmm.
professional drone pilot.
Wow.
And to me, this is an exciting new field where I can stretch my wings.
Right, right. Stretch your sort of like figurative wings. I mean, they're gonna be sort of like choppers. They're flying the drone. But I mean, we should actually make some sort of a joint study, you and I, to follow biologists in their later stages of life, where what kind of interest do they pick? Because I love drones and cinematography, photography, all that words piques my interest so much. And the moment you said a drone, I was already thinking, well, you can. I'm gonna tell him to attach a camera to it and get into cinematography as well with the drone. But you seem to already have that goal in mind. So, yeah, that's gonna be my future as well. As soon as I'm done with whatever I'm doing right now. Lastly, I want to ask you this before I let you go. After all of the conversations that we've had, if there is one thing that you want every listener to remember from today when they hit a setback, whatever that might be. It could be a setback in school, it could be a setback in life, small, big, whatever it can be. What would that advice be? What would you like them to always remember?
Well, the take-home message that I would leave is really pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the adversity that needs to be overcome, no matter how large the barriers are that you have to get through,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you are trying, you are succeeding. So what I tell people, and I try to instill this in my children, in my grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
is that you only fail when you quit. So you must never quit.
Mm-hmm.
You must never stop. You must never give in. The only way to succeed is to keep on trucking.
Keep on trucking. Keep on trucking, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard it here first. Thank you for joining us today for this special final or finale with Dr. Howard E. Rubin here on the BrightWord Books Podcast. Howard's journey reminds us that the only limits that truly hold us back are the ones we accept. And with resilience, with determination, and willingness to rewrite our own narrative, we can all move from nobody to somebody in our own unique way. If Howard's story inspired you today, we encourage you to pick a copy of How Nobody Became a Somebody and share it with someone who might need that extra push to believe in themselves. And from us here at the BrightWord Podcast, thank you for listening. I want to give the word back to Dr. Howard to say his goodbyes before we let him go. Dr. Howard? So, Dr. Howard, do you have any closing words, any goodbyes?
No, I don't. I want to thank you again very much for having me.
It has been a lot of fun talking to you, learning from you. And from all of us here at BrightWord, thank you for listening. And remember, keep reading, keep writing, keep believing in the power of your own story. That's from me to you. I have been your host, Winston, as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the BrightWord Books Podcast, home of the literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.